Good readback.
So again, we are now less than 1 hour until liftoff, and this day is the continuation of regular crew flights to the space station from U.S. soil. SpaceX's Crew 5 mission will be the company's 6th crewed spaceflight for NASA, following the crewed test flight Demo 2 and 4 previous operational crewed missions to the International Space Station. It will also be SpaceX's 8th crewed spaceflight overall, including the private orbital mission Inspiration 4.
Today, our crew is flying on board Dragon Endurance. It will be the second flight for this capsule, and it will be taking a ride on a brand new Falcon 9. Now, it's been a great countdown so far. Weather, as Kate has been updating us with, is still good for T0, so the excitement just continues to pick up here as we get closer to that T0.
SpaceX Dragon in Section 6, Crew 5 is go for launch.
Copy that, Nicole. Crew 5 is go for launch.
And you just heard it yourself, Crew 5 is go for launch, another exciting milestone. We did start our coverage earlier today with the crew heading to the launch pad, and prior to that, the SpaceX team did help the crew put on their spacesuits and conduct initial checkouts before crew walkout. Crew walkout was where Nicole Mann, Josh Cassada, Koichi Wakata, and Anya Kikina gave final goodbyes with friends and family gathered outside the operations and checkout building before they began that roughly 20-minute ride to pad 39A.
And we were able to watch the crew as they boarded their Teslas and headed down the NASA Causeway, headed towards the launch pad. And once they arrived at the pad, the crew took a moment to enjoy the view of the vehicle as that they will be taking flight on this afternoon, and then headed up the fixed service structure to begin a process known as crew ingress, where the astronauts entered the Dragon spacecraft. The SpaceX team then performed a series of checks to ensure the suits, seats, and vehicle interactions were all functioning properly.
And a short time ago, the team did close out Dragon's hatch, and the crew is safely inside. So with less than an hour to go until liftoff, things will continue to pick up as we get close to the go, no-go pole to arm the launch escape system and begin propellant loading.
The crew poll for readiness was completed at the T-minus 60-minute mark, and the Dragon poll for prop load is coming up here at T-minus 55 minutes. After that, at T-minus 45 minutes, will be an internal mission control Hawthorne poll, and then the launch director's poll for propellant loading. When we get to about T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm will retract, and the crew will get the call to close their visors and to arm the launch escape system. Now, this is the automated safety system in place that can fire the 8 Super Draco thrusters on Dragon to quickly separate the crew from the rocket, either on the pad or during the flight on the ride uphill.
And then once we reach about T-minus 35 minutes, propellant loading for the Falcon 9 will begin. So we did hear that the crew is go for launch. Great news. So with that, let's send it back to the team in Florida. Megan?
Great news, guys. So yeah, now I'm joined with Brian Oñate, but I'm going to have him say his title because I think I'm going to mess it up. So you say what you are.
Sure. Good morning. Yeah, I'm the Chief of the Utilization and Life Sciences Office here at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, it was a little long. I was like, I'm going to have him say it.
Yep, long title.
So I wanted to talk to you about how NASA has been studying plant growth and microgravity for many years now. So tell us about the 2 experiments that Crew 5 is going to be working on while they're on station.
Sure. We have 2 experiments going up. One is more of a plant research experiment. We call it Plant Habitat 03. It will be going into the Advanced Plant Habitat. And actually, that plant experiment is doing a generational study. So as you can see, that's the advanced plant habitat, and the plant that is growing in there is called Arabidopsis. It's our model plant, and basically we're going to grow that and get it all the way to seed. And the study is basically getting those seeds, bringing them back, and then reflying those seeds to see what happens. So what's interesting is...
And the second picture, right, that we have, that's how you capture the seeds.
Yeah, that's how we capture the seeds. What's interesting about those seeds, they're actually the size of pepper. So imagine the pepper that you put on your food, very tiny, very small. So we had to actually develop these capture bags to grab those seeds. So what we're noticing is in a previous experiment, the DNA of the plant actually changed, and it almost seemed like it was trying to protect itself from the environment of space, the harsh environment that's up there. So what we want to study is, can we actually grab those seeds, and will those seeds remember that environment? So when we fly the second generation, will they kind of have a leg up? Will they go already kind of pre-programmed to protect themselves? So that way the plants will thrive in space.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that something that you wanted to see? What can we learn from that or use?
Yeah, so what we can do is for exploration with NASA, obviously we want to get to the orbiting station around the moon one day, or the surface, or the transit vehicle, or Mars. How can we better prepare the plants that we send, or the crops that we send up there, so that they actually are ready to go, they'll thrive, and we understand what's happening so that the crew can actually consume something great. So,
always forward thinking here at
always
NASA.
forward
We're
thinking.
great.
Yeah, always forward thinking.
Well, let's talk about the second experiment. That one's called VEG-05, and we have some props here to kind of walk people through that,
Yeah,
right?
we do, yeah. So VEG-05, it's actually, we're growing dwarf tomato plants,
Okay.
and we're going to put them in this, what we call here is a plant pillow. What's interesting, it's actually made out of Kevlar, so exactly what police use in their police vests, so I guess they might be bulletproof, plant pillows. But yeah, so these plant pillows, it's just basically how do we hold the soil, how do we put the fertilizer and the seed in there in order for us to grow the plants.
Because they would just fly around on the space station.
They would just fly around on the space station. So we have a little, what we call a quick disconnect here. This is where we apply the water. So once we apply the water in there, we have to keep watering it like here on Earth, and just let the plants grow and let them thrive in space. So,
and you mentioned the fertilizer.
Yep, the fertilizer and the arsenite. So what you see there on the right there is the arsenite, which is actually clay chips, right? It's the soil that basically allows the water to be absorbed and allows the plants, roots to kind of grow in there and grab water and nutrients. The second there that you see there is the fertilizer, and it's a slow release fertilizer. So when we add water into it, it kind of dissolves little by little, and it provides the food that the plants need so that they can grow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so why is this important for us on space, but also here on Earth, to learn about this particular experiment?
Sure. Both of these experiments are important. One is obviously for exploration, we want to make sure that the seeds that we send, the plants that we grow, will thrive, right? So how can we make them excel in space, right? And the second piece with VEG-05, which we find interesting, is how can we actually give food for the crew to eat on orbit, right?
Sure.
So healthy, nutritious food. This is actually going to be our second flowering plant that we grow in space, which is awesome. So they'll grow up there, they'll have to pollinate, and the crew members might have to be our space bees.
Oh.
We don't have bees up there to help us pollinate, so they might have to, help with pollination. They'll grow, and then hopefully they'll get some nutritious fresh food up there. And the benefit, what I find interesting here for Earth is there's a lot of things that we learn with ISS. ISS is basically a laboratory or another test tool. So we really want to see what data can we gather from growing up there. So when we bring it down to Earth, if we're in a stressful environment or another environment that is challenging, what did we learn up there so we can actually grow better crops here on Earth?
I love hearing about the science, Brian. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No problem. Sounds great. Thank you.
We'll send it back to you guys.
Thank you, Megan and Brian. And throughout the show, we've been taking your hashtag Ask NASA questions from social media. We have time for a few more that have been coming in, and we appreciate those questions coming in. If you want to submit one, it's hashtag Ask NASA on our streaming channels, NASA Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The question is from Aditi on YouTube. He asked Bob Binken, how was the launch experience different on Space Shuttle and Crew Dragon? Was one better than the other?
No, it's a great question, Daryl. We often get asked which vehicle is better, which one we love the most. And from my perspective, I love them both. I had a great opportunity to fly and build space station with the space shuttle, but then rotate as a crew member with the Dragon on a modern spacecraft. That was a really neat aspect to see something that was kind of built in the 21st century versus something that was built, in almost the middle of the 20th century. If you look back at the technology that was on board the shuttle, just super excited to have an opportunity to fly on such a cool modern new ship.
And now, next question at Mike Mangano. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Asked, and this is a fitting question for you, Bob. Did the NASA astronauts who fly the Dragon capsule help in the design of the capsule? Why, yes, they did, and that was you.
It was an interesting experience, I think, for both Doug and I to have the opportunity to not only fly on a new spacecraft, but be a part of shaping it for crews to come forward. And I think as we went through that process, the SpaceX team really learned how to work with us and how to take our inputs and incorporate them into design whenever they could, and explain to us when they couldn't, because everything that we wanted they couldn't necessarily do. but we were able to compromise and come up with good solutions so that years later, maybe in Crew 5's case, they wouldn't be cursing Bob and Doug's name as to what they had agreed to or said was acceptable when the time came. We wanted to have opportunities for them to have choices. We included the opportunity to write on paper, but also to have a tablet, so that crews, as they went forward with their missions, would be able to find the place that, helped them be as successful as they could be. And so I'm hopeful that there just aren't too many curses associated with Bob and Doug, and it's mostly, hey, those guys, they were thinking when they did this. So,
and we've had good results so far with 4 launches and the 5th today. Our next question comes from @morearts.com. If the astronaut schedule shifts during docking activities, does their schedule shift later in the day or the next morning? We do know that the ISS crew is sleep shifting in order to accommodate this crew.
It's true, Daryl, that the crew actually has to sleep shift to accommodate the schedules of the vehicle traffic that arrives on board the space station. There are even times when the vehicle arrives a few minutes early or a few minutes late, and the crew needs to be ready for that as well. And so the crew does shift their day around to support all the operational activities, not only vehicle traffic and arrivals, but a spacewalk may impact things, or other activities that are happening on the ground, for example, might drive a schedule to be specific as well. But the crew's given time to recover after each of those sleep shifts.
Very good. And for those watching, if you want to ask a question of Bob Behnken, just follow us on Twitter @NASA Social, or check us out on the web at nasa.gov/social. Thanks for answering those questions, Bob. Great job. Let's send it now back out to Kate at SpaceX for an update on the countdown. Kate?
Always love hearing those responses from any astronaut, but especially Bob, because he flew on our DM2 mission a couple years ago. So at this point in time, we're now under an hour. We're at T-minus 48 minutes, and the SpaceX launch team is finishing the final review of data from checkouts of Falcon 9 over the last hour. The launch director has verified with the launch weather officer that weather meets propellant loading constraints. So next up will be to poll the team for readiness, both for propellant load and for launch. This will be the last poll before liftoff. The 7 SpaceX responsible engineers, often called REs, indicate that they are go by electronically voting on the online countdown procedure. The launch director, or LD, as you hear it called on the nets, also checks with the Dragon mission director, or MD, and the NASA launch manager to make sure that they are also ready. Earlier, you saw the vehicle assembly building called the VAB. The Falcon and Dragon launch team, as well as key NASA launch members, are in the Launch Control Center adjacent to the VAB. They have a view straight toward Pad 39A through the large windows of Firing Room 4. Now there on screen, you can see the Dragon capsule on the right-hand side. The crew access arm is still in the service position. I've recently heard that the closeout team has departed the tower, and they are in the process of departing the blast danger area. Now, with the crew on board Dragon waiting for next instructions, which will be to stow the crew arm for launch, the crew arm sequence will be armed and initiated. We should get a good view of the access arm as it
Attention
swings.
operators on countdown. Pulling is complete. The team has pulled go for crew access arm retract, LES arm, propellant load, and launch. For all operators in MCCX and Firing Room 4, both control rooms will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and will remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system, following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent, no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence and immediately proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off, relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fires imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control at this time may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Launch control copies, proceeding to arm crew arm for movement.
All right, quick recap there. All really good news. It sounds like the final poll has been conducted and all of the responsible engineers polled go, as well as the range they polled ready for launch, and the NASA team, the NASA launch team is also ready for launch. So everything continuing to look good. We just heard there that the crew arm, the crew access arm will be armed for retraction, meaning it will move away from the Dragon capsule.
Crew access arm retraction started.
All right, and there we should get a view of that crew access arm now moving away from Dragon capsule. Again, this will swing out into its launch position. This is the final change to the crew access arm, to the crew tower. Of course, the transporter erector will move away from the rocket as it lifts off and just shortly before liftoff. So that, in fact, will be the last major physical change that we see to the pad. But this crew access arm retraction is the final, will be the final state for the access arm for launch. This retraction should take about a minute to complete. Now, as I mentioned before, the range continues to be go for launch, monitoring the clearance area around the launch pad, as well as air and sea space around the flight corridor. And of course, here at Kennedy Space Center, as you see on your screen, the conditions are gorgeous. Everything continues to be acceptable for launch. Many things go into consideration, such as ground winds, any rain that might be in the area, as well as potential for lightning, any thick clouds, and of course, as I mentioned before, downrange landing zones. We have mentioned before that we've been tracking those, but everything continues to look green for launch. At this point in time, everything is looking on time for our liftoff at noon Eastern. We can see that crew access arm continuing to retract. Pretty cool shot there from inside the arm on the right-hand side of your screen as we see Dragon slowly move out of the frame. So with all that being said, the teams are ready. We will begin the propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes. And we are getting excited here at SpaceX headquarters. The energy is definitely starting to pick up outside of mission control. But with that, let's hand it off to Daryl to check in back over there at Kennedy Space Center.
All right, thank you, Kate. And back here on the lawn and the host desk, looking out at what one of my coworkers called a picnic vibe, with the media and NASA social folks all joined here to watch Crew 5 launch in just
crew
about
access
42
arm
minutes.
retraction complete.
And there you heard confirmation that that crew access arm has fully retracted from the rocket. A gorgeous shot there from our flight operations team here at the Kennedy Space Center, a helicopter encircling the pad right now to give you that view. Great job, fellas. T-minus 42 minutes and counting as we zip around Launch Complex 39A. The background, the launch tower for Dragon, and in the foreground, a Starship launch tower under construction. Up next, we're looking at the launch escape system getting ready to arm, and of course that comes right before we start loading propellant. We're expecting to hear those call-outs in just a bit. On a beautiful bluebird day at the Kennedy Space Center. Our crew, Crew 5, is in their seats at the very top of that rocket, inside the capsule Endurance, making its second flight. There they are, from left to right. Cosmonaut Anna Kikina, Josh Cassada, Nicole Mann, and Koichi Wakata.
And Daryl, they're getting into position to begin their procedure that'll have them arming that launch escape system that you mentioned. They'll be able to hear some clicking of valves and follow along on their display screen as once they've kicked off that procedure, as the vehicle kind of catches up and completes that arming sequence. And as you know, once the fueling operations begin, the crew has to be ready to potentially launch somewhere if there was some sort of a problem. And so that launch escape system needs to be in place and armed in preparation for that fueling operation to begin. That system will stay armed throughout the ascent phase until the crew is actually safely in orbit, allowing them a safe way to escape from the Falcon 9 rocket should there be any sort of a problem with the vehicle.
And And we're expecting to see the astronauts close their visors and arm the launch escape system that you just talked about, Bob. Here in a little over a minute, we'll get the call out from the launch team.
You'll also see them ensure that their feet are in the appropriate locked-in position, their straps are tight, because again, should that system be required, they might be going for a pretty significant dynamic ride. But of course, we don't expect that to happen today, but they'll have that system in place just in case as the appropriate safety measure.
Yeah, Bob, that launch escape system, powered by Super Draco engines, capable of moving Dragon a half a mile in just 7.5 seconds, which is equivalent to a peak velocity of 436 miles per hour. I know you know this system well. You were very much briefed and very aware of its capabilities. You want to be able to not only get off the launch pad, but also get off the rocket while in flight. So it's got to move fast.
Absolutely, Daryl. And for shuttle systems, the crew would really have to do a lot of manual activities to steer the vehicle through the appropriate escape or abort scenarios, as we talked about them in those days. But this system is highly automated, and the crew primarily follows along with its operations.
Dragon, you are go for Section 7 of 4.100 to close visors and arm the launch escape system.
SpaceX Dragon copies stepping into Section 7. All crew visors are closed. We are arming the launch escape system.
SpaceX copies all.
That's Commander Nicole Mann reporting back and confirming. Their visors are closed, and they are ready to arm the launch escape system.
And you can see the crew members pulling their straps and ensuring that they are buckled in, because from a crew perspective, that relaxation period that I talked about earlier is now over.
Yeah, it's all business now. Want to make sure that you're in your seat, firm and tight, for the operation of fueling.
This is also the part of the operation that starts to be a little bit different than training. You really can't capture the
This
tones.
is empty on countdown 1. Launch escape system is verified armed.
All right, we got the verification of the armed escape system.
So from a training perspective, the sounds and things that the crew will hear during the loading operation are just different than they're able to capture from a training perspective. And so now's when it starts to, again, be a little bit different from a crew perspective.
There's no simulating that system.
There is some acoustics that they tried to capture.
Falcon 9 tanks will be venting for the start of prop load. Expect loud venting.
That they tried to capture with the Demo 1 audio, if you will. But as you heard in the comm that just came through there, you need to get reminded to expect loud venting during some of the operations. And these are new things from a crew perspective that you've been briefed on, but now you're going to hear them for the first time.
3 of the 4 crew members inside that capsule right now have never flown to space before. They are first-time flyers. The lone exception, Koichi Wakata, who was a veteran with JAXA, and is getting ready to embark on his 5th flight to space. And as we wait for the next mark,
the crew's experience, whether it's a space shuttle or a Soyuz or the Dragon vehicle or Starliner or Artemis, as we move towards that, these experiences are all slightly different. And so I'm excited to hear, Koichi's discussion as he tries to balance and describe all 3 of them side by side when he gets back from this mission.
Would love to hear him talk about the comparisons. There's only a few astronauts like him, right, that have been able to fly on all 3 vehicles.
Yes, and as we go forward here with the Artemis missions coming forward, I'm excited to have folks compare and contrast their Orion experience, their SLS experience with Falcon 9 or our other rockets.
That's going to be fun. Just a few seconds now, and we're awaiting the confirmation to the beginning of loading propellant into the Falcon 9 rocket. With a beautiful shot there as we encircle the launch pad. Just a few more seconds until that call out.
Propellant loading has started.
And so it begins. The loading of propellant aboard the Falcon 9 rocket, liquid oxygen and RP1. Got your propellant and your oxidizer, which blended together make quite the combustion. Millions of pounds of thrust to get Crew 5 into space.
You know, there are a lot of details to that operation, Daryl, with each of the stages, and as you mentioned, the oxidizer and the fuel both needing to be loaded, and so the crew will follow along with that carefully as the loading operation commences. If there was any reason for them to need to stop that operation, the crew would expect that propellant loading to kind of be backed out and reversed, and so they'll want to understand the state of that fueling operation going forward, just in case they had to back out of it.
And we've got a social question now from @GrantB117, who asks, how long does it take to complete the fueling operations?
You know, it's a great question, Daryl, and they started it at 35 minutes because that's really, prior to liftoff, because that's how long it takes for the loading operations to kind of get executed. The crew goes through the process, the ground team, of loading that propellant, ensuring that they get the proper commodities on board. The actual sequencing of things might be affected a little bit by the temperature on a given day, but they have that process well monitored, and they begin at 35 minutes because that's how long it takes to get the rocket all fueled up.
Thank you for asking, or for answering those questions, and to you out there for asking the questions. Keep them coming. #AskNASA on our various social platforms. And again, now that fueling for Falcon 9 has started, that means the 8 Super Draco engines inside Crew Dragon are ready, if needed, to launch the capsule away from Falcon 9 in an instant, should there be any kind of emergency associated with the rocket or the pad. The NASA and SpaceX teams have trained extensively for exactly that type of contingency. And so now let's go over to Kate Tice at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne for another operations update. Kate?
Thanks, Daryl. You can probably tell by the background noise that things are starting to get more exciting now that we're just practically 30 minutes away from launch of Crew 5, certainly counting down the final minutes. Everything's still looking good for Falcon 9 and Dragon. With that launch escape system now armed, we are heading for an on-time launch just 32 minutes from now. As you saw, Falcon 9 propellant load began right on time at T-minus 35 minutes. The first and second stages of Falcon 9 are each loaded with 2 liquid propellants. One is fuel, which is loaded into a tank at the bottom of each stage, and the other is an oxidizer, and that's loaded into a tank at the top of each stage. The fuel that we use to power the Merlin engines is a refined kerosene referred to as RP1, or Rocket Propellant 1. The oxidizer loaded on each stage is a densified liquid oxygen, or LOX. Densified means that it's kept much colder than typical for launch vehicles, and it takes up less volume. And as such, this allows for more oxidizer to be loaded into the first and second stages. Now, to ignite the fuel and oxidizer in the Merlin rocket engine, we use an ignition fluid called TTEB. When TTEB comes into contact with oxygen, it burns, giving off a green-colored flame. Once we have that flame going, we add in the kerosene fuel to the Merlin chamber, and the engine ramps up to full power. You might actually be able to see that green flash just as the second stage engine ignites following stage separation, which is expected to happen about 2 minutes and 48 seconds into flight. Right now, we're topping off helium into pressure vessels on both stages. This is used to pressurize tanks in flight as propellant is pulled out of those tanks by the Merlin turbo pumps. Now, on board the spacecraft, the astronauts are monitoring systems from their crew monitors.
Stage 1 cryohelium loading has started.
All right, there we just heard that the cryo-helium load has begun. Again, that is going into those pressure vessels that I mentioned earlier. Now, the crew training simulator has included playback of the sounds that were recorded in a previous Dragon capsule during recent flights. So all of the pops and the hisses that the vehicle puts out, all the crew has heard those before, though not live. So they are prepared for all the noises, the extra noises that they're now hearing. As for the range, continues to report no problems. They are go to support launch. Weather also clearly looking great. I think we're actually seeing even fewer clouds than we were about 20 minutes ago. We had a less than 10% chance or probability of violation of our weather constraints, also known as a POV. So that's really good. That is for the launch site conditions. We are also tracking downrange weather conditions as well as launch sites around the world in the unlikely event that Dragon needs to escape. Now, as a reminder, today we have an instantaneous launch time because we're heading to the International Space Station. So at this point in time, if we hear a hold for any reason, we will have to stand down and target our backup launch opportunity, which is tomorrow, just under 24 hours from today's planned launch. At this point in time, at just under T-minus 30 minutes till launch, let's turn it back over to Jesse and Sandra for an overview of what's to come until liftoff.
Great. Thanks, Kate. Always great to hear that we've got good weather and it looks beautiful over there at KSC. For Crew 5, the astronauts' flight to station will take about 29 hours.
And as we await T0 in just about 28 minutes from now, the ground operations team is doing a series of system checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. You're looking at a live view of our teams at the Cape as they prepare for liftoff. And as we wait for the launch clock to hit 0, we want to give you an overview of what the ascent portion of the mission will look like.
Now, once we hit T0 and a successful launch occurs, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent.
About 50 seconds into flight, Falcon's 9 engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. At this point in time, the vehicle will be going supersonic.
And once we're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, we can throttle up our 9 Merlin engines again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that will happen in rapid succession.
The first is MECO, or main engine cutoff, and this is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines shut off in preparation for stage separation, which is, of course, our second event. This is where the first stage detaches from the second stage, and the first stage will make its way back to Earth for landing, while the second stage continues on its journey with the third event, which is SES-1, or second stage engine start number 1. And this is where the MVAC engine lights up and propels the second stage along with our Crew 5 astronauts to orbit.
As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back down to Earth. The first is the entry burn, and that's where 3 of the 9 M1D engines will reignite and shut down, and this helps to slow the stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
While the first stage is heading back to Earth, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. Once this happens, we will wait for confirmation of a good orbital insertion.
About 90 seconds after Dragon gets into orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn is just a single engine burn, powerful enough to bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to touch down on the drone ship at about 9.5 minutes into the mission.
While Falcon 9's first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing to separate from the second stage. About 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage. And it is worth noting that these are not the Super Draco engines that would be used during an abort scenario.
About 40 seconds after separation, Dragon's nose cone deploy sequence will begin. It will take roughly 4 minutes for the nose cone hooks to unlatch and open, exposing its guidance navigation controls that will help Dragon autonomously fly to the space station.
And lastly, once the nose cone is deployed, the remaining Draco thrusters on the forward bulkhead will be checked. From there, over the next...
Stage 2 cryo-helium loading has started.
From there, over the next 29 hours, Dragon will be in its rendezvous and approach phases, undergoing a number of phasing burns as it makes its way back to station. All that will be coming up soon, but for now, let's check back in with Shaniqua in Mission Control Houston. Shaniqua?
Thanks, Sandra. The flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston are laser focused on the onboard systems of the space station, making sure it is ready to receive Dragon vehicle tomorrow. They're also making sure communication links between the station, Dragon, and the ground are working properly. The consensus right now is that everything is proceeding nominally. Teams here in Mission Control Houston, the teams in Hawthorne, and the astronauts aboard the space station will monitor the autonomous docking of the Dragon spacecraft tomorrow evening. They'll perform a series of leak checks, then work to open the hatches both on the Dragon side and inside the space station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch opening to take place around an hour and a half after docking. And once aboard, the astronauts will be greeted by Station Commander Samantha Cristoforetti, and then the whole station crew will join in for welcoming remarks to the new crew members. Now, due to critical science, this welcoming remarks will be about 90 minutes after the crew is on board. Once on board, the crew members will no longer be referred to as Crew 5, but rather as flight engineers of the International Space Station. Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Greg Whitney is on console overseeing the team for launch, and he will be back tomorrow for docking. We'll be on air continuously through Crew 5's arrival, but live coverage of docking is expected tomorrow around 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time. That's it from now. From Mission Control Houston, I'll toss it back to the team in Florida. Daryl, how's it looking?
Well, it's wonderful out here, Shaniqua. Wish you could be here. We got picnic weather out here at the press site and Launch Complex 39, where we are looking out for the launch of Crew 5 from historic Launch Complex 39A, a beautiful sweeping shot of the lawn where we have our special guests. The media are here. We've got NASA social folks who are out on the lawn, and of course, me and Bob. Bob's riding shotgun here as we take our coverage to the next level at the final 23 minutes of liftoff. Now, from the countdown rather. We are just seconds away from the 5th astronaut rotation mission to the International Space Station under NASA's Commercial Crew Program. Commander Nicole Mann, pilot Josh Cassada, and mission specialist Koichi Wakata and Anna Kikina are strapped into their seats inside the Dragon Endurance at the very top of this rocket here. We are listening in to the communications as they talk live to the Falcon 9 team. The rocket is fueling. The operation is doing well. And the launch escape system is armed. Of course, that means Dragon is prepared to launch itself away from the Falcon 9 rocket in case of an emergency on the pad or after liftoff. So far, operations looking and sounding as expected. And we are counting down to our liftoff at just after noon, 12 p.m. and 57 seconds after the hour Eastern time. There was a 1-second adjustment. That's pretty typical as happens when we get to this stage of the mission. The mission is the continuation of rotational crew flights to the International Space Station from U.S. soil on private rockets and spacecraft. Of course, this would not have been possible without the success of the NASA SpaceX Demo 2 test flight now 2 years ago, and of course the safe delivery and return of crews 1, 2, 3, and eventually here in about a week, Crew 4. Of course, we're happy to have the pilot from Demo 2, and that's Bob Binken. Appreciate you being here, been giving us some great thoughts and explanations about everything that's been happening.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I'm super excited to be here for Crew 5 and get a chance to relive my experience during the Demo 2 mission.
And it's been a great one so far. We've watched the crew get into the capsule. We've watched, they worked through a couple of issues early on, but those have been cleared. A suit leak check and a hatch leak check that had to be double checked. Now we're rolling along and moving towards liftoff. A couple things that are coming up as we count down. We're going to have stage 2 RP1 load complete. That's in 20 seconds. A few seconds later, we'll get strong back chill. That will begin in order to set the stage for the stage 2 liquid oxygen load. Of course, propellant's load is not an exact science, but once it completes, we'll hear that call out.
Stage 2, RP1 load is complete.
And there you heard it. Let's talk a little bit about the crew. If you're just joining us, we have a 4-person crew that we call Crew 5, and it's commanded by Nicole Mann. She holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering and is a colonel in the Marine Corps. She was an FA-18 Hornet and Super Hornet test pilot and deployed twice aboard aircraft carriers in support of combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nicole was selected by NASA in June of 2013, and in the years that followed, led the astronaut corps in the development of hardware for our Artemis program. Today, the Crew 5 commander will be flying into space for the first time, and once she reaches space, she will be the first Native American woman to stay on station. A historic first for NASA and for her.
Absolutely, Daryl. The astronaut corps is widely diverse, and I'm just proud to see Nicole join that crew on board the International Space Station.
With her is pilot Josh Cassada. He grew up in Bear Lake, Minnesota. The physicist and U.S. Navy test pilot flew the P-3C and the P-8A, as well as 23 combat missions. He later became an instructor at the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School, which is a path to NASA for military officers. Cassada is one of more than 100 graduates who have become astronauts, going all the way back to the Mercury program. More recently, he served as capsule communicator and mission control, but today he is the pilot aboard Dragon.
It's a seat I know well, and I look forward to seeing Josh support Nicole and the rest of the crew on their way towards the International Space Station.
The mission specialist now, Koichi Wakata, he's the veteran, a Japanese astronaut who has a doctorate in aerospace engineering. In 1996, he became the first Japanese mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour for STS-72. Altogether, Koichi flew 4 Space Shuttle missions, a Roscosmos Soyuz, and was on a long-duration stay aboard the International Space Station. During his 2-decade career as an astronaut, Koichi has spent 11 months in space. Bob, you spent a fair amount of time in space yourself. It's great to have a veteran aboard.
It absolutely is, and in addition to being a veteran, Koichi just has a wonderful personality that I know is just it's key to kind of success on board the space station.
Our second mission specialist is Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina. She graduated from the Novosibirsk State Academy of Water Transport in 2006. In 2012, Anna officially became a candidate for the position of test cosmonaut. Crew 5 will be Anna's first flight into space, along with 2 of her other fellow astronauts. Now, each of these 4 crew members will be part of Expedition 68 once they arrive at the International Space Station. And there you see them there inside Crew Dragon Endurance, the second flight for this Dragon. I want to let you know, if you're here locally and want to step outside and enjoy the launch, we've got a small radio. You can pick us up on VHF radio frequency 146.940 on the megahertz scale, and on UHF radio frequency 444.925 megahertz FM mode. You can hear that all within Brevard County, right here on the beautiful Space Coast. And you can see the
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
Just got the call out that the Stage 2 LOX load has started, putting that liquid propellant into the second stage. Let's check back in with Kate Tice and get an update from Hawthorne. Kate?
Thanks, Daryl. We are T-minus 16 minutes away from launch, and everything continues to look great for Falcon 9 and Dragon. Falcon 9 began prop load at T-minus 35 minutes. The loading of RP1 fuel on the second stage is complete. That finished at T-minus 20 minutes. Fuel loading continues on the first stage. It is almost complete. That should be wrapping up here momentarily. Densified liquid oxygen loading is underway on both the first and second stages. Those look to be about 80% on the first stage and has only just recently begun on the second stage. So not much there yet. That will wrap up at T-minus 3 minutes and T-minus 2 minutes respectively. Now, as for checkouts of thrust vector controllers, what we call TVC wiggles, those are coming up. We basically check to make sure that the thrust vector controllers are able to actuate the engines themselves. That's what helps create gimbal for those engines, and gimbaling is actually how Falcon 9 steers itself. So those are coming up along with throttle valve checkouts on the engines. The Dragon mission director and team are currently reporting no issues, so really good on that front. Communication checkouts are complete. The crew access arm is retracted, as we can see there, and the crew is strapped in and ready to go, as you can see there on the right-hand side of your screen. Everybody continuing to monitor prop load there on their crew monitors. Now, final instructions to the crew come at T-minus 10 minutes. At that point, their crew displays will be configured for launch. This setup gives the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health. At T-minus 5 minutes, we'll hear the call out that will be in terminal count, and at that point, Dragon will transition to internal power. We'll hear continued call outs on the countdown nets as we get closer to liftoff. As for range, they continue to be go, continuing to monitor the launch corridor, and everything remains green. As for weather, we're looking at 7-mile-per-hour winds at the launch site. And as I said before, as the countdown continues, we are seeing fewer and fewer clouds. Just an absolutely stunning day there at Kennedy Space Center. Let's check back in with Daryl to see the last couple minutes prior to liftoff.
Thanks, Kate, and it really couldn't be more perfect out here weather-wise for a launch. How about that, Bob?
It just looks absolutely stunning to look out and see the vehicle ready to go, the crew on board, strapped in. I'm just super excited for them.
And there's a view of the countdown clock and the historic American flag that has been standing there since the space shuttle program. Now you're looking at a pic of Crew 5. Crew 5 flying aboard the Dragon capsule Endurance, and the booster that you see behind them that they're posing with is a brand new one. Actually was damaged in transit from California to Texas, but it was fixed, repaired. Crew did a great job, the SpaceX team, in getting it all ready. And at the time that Falcon 9 launches Dragon to space, the International Space Station will be 260 statute miles over Australia. Crew 5 will then spend the next 21 hours with Mission Control Team that you see there in Houston, standing by, getting ready for the beginning of this mission. They'll spend 29 hours chasing down the International Space Station for a rendezvous at 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow evening. One of the longer transits, Bob.
It's true. It's a little bit longer than usual, or average, I would say, as we work towards Crew 5. But as the launch dates shift around, that changes the time that you can actually arrive on space station. They've got plenty of consumables, so it should be fun to have some time in space.
And when they arrive tomorrow evening, we'll have live coverage on NASA TV of docking, as well as the Crew 5 welcome ceremony at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:15 p.m. Central. And some final thoughts, Bob, as we get ready to watch Crew 5 launch into space.
You know, my opportunity to sit here and watch Crew 5 go has just been inspiring again to see another vehicle head towards the International Space Station. Again, I'm excited for them, and just hopeful that Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna have just a wonderful mission. I know that they've got a wonderful launch in front of them.
Absolutely, and that's what we're rooting for here. And so with T-minus 11 minutes and counting, we're going to spin our chairs around and watch the launch, but we're going to let Kate and the team focus on the pad as we proceed through the final stretch of the countdown. We'll turn it over to Kate Tice at SpaceX headquarters in California to take us through. Take it away, Kate.
Thanks, Daryl. As you can probably tell by the background noise, the crowd is definitely growing here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Certainly one of our company traditions is to watch the launch itself from behind Mission Control, which you see there on your screen. You can see this is Mission Control Hawthorne, or as you sometimes hear referred to as MCCX. And then, of course, a crowd of employees watching from behind. I personally also stand there if I'm not doing the webcast, so I can confirm it's a great spot to watch launch. Like I said, as you can see, the energy is certainly starting to grow now that we're about to hit T-minus 10 minutes. Beautiful view there of Falcon 9 and Dragon on the pad, ready to take Crew 5 to space.
We did discuss
Dragon, SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
Welcome. We would like to give a huge thanks to the NASA and SpaceX team, the thousands of people for their development, preparation, and training in getting Endurance and Crew 5 to the launch pad today, and your continued support in helping to make this a successful mission. We look forward to joining the rest of our Expedition 68 crew members aboard the International Space Station. And a special thanks on behalf of all the crew to our family and friends. It is your love and support that help make dreams come true. Now let's do this. Crew 5 displays are configured for launch.
Copy. And Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna, on behalf of the entire team at SpaceX, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
And those words from Nicole Mann, the first female commander of a Dragon, as she thanked the many folks that have helped get them to this point. We're now less than 9 minutes away from launch today. Upon liftoff, you'll hear a number and letter combinations which mark different abort zones throughout the flight, as well as some performance calls. The first two are 1A and 1B, and those signify the first stage and will last up to the very north tip of North Carolina. The next are 2A through 2E, and those will come into play once the second stage kicks in, lasting from the top of North Carolina all the way to the tip of Newfoundland in the northern Atlantic. You'll also hear a spot that is to be avoided, and you might hear Shannon or forward to Shannon, and that actually refers to Shannon, Ireland, meaning they would target off the east coast of Ireland if they were later in that second stage and did need to abort for some reason. So the next major milestone that we're looking towards will come just seconds from now, and that will be when engine chill begins on the first stage of the engine.
That's right. So engine chill is basically when we take a little bit of that super chilled densified liquid oxygen and we flow it through the turbopumps of the Merlin M1D engines on the first stage. This helps to prepare the turbopumps and avoid any thermal shock to the hardware when they see the full flow of liquid oxygen during ignition. We're also expecting the conclusion of prop load for the RP1 on first stage to wrap up at T-minus 6 minutes. LOX load continues to be underway on both first and second stages, again wrapping those at T-minus 3 minutes and 2 minutes.
And after that, we'll hear a number of call-outs related to Dragon's flight computer. Some will be
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
And you did just hear that call out that stage 1 engine chill has begun. Coming up in just about 45 seconds, we should expect to hear that RP1 load is complete. RP1 load is that densified kerosene or rocket fuel that will help propel the crew into orbit. All of that RP1 is loaded into the first stage, and we are standing by to hear that it was loaded into the second stage as well.
Again, we expect that to wrap at T-minus 6 minutes. The venting that you see on screen is totally normal. That is just some
Stage 1, RP1 load is complete.
Great news there, the RP1 load is now finished. As I was saying, the venting that you see on the vehicle is totally normal. That's just some of the super chilled densified liquid oxygen just vaporizing as it comes into contact and vents from the vehicle.
And coming up, we'll also hear the call for Dragon to configure for terminal count, and then it will be transferred over to internal power. And then we'll hear that propellant tanks on Falcon 9 are getting ready to pressurize, which helps add some additional rigidity and structural support as we get ready for strong back retract.
That strong back will retract a couple of degrees at first, and then we will see it swing open completely just shortly, or at the moment of
Falcon 9
liftoff.
tanks will be pressurizing for strong back retract.
Right, there's that indication that we are preparing for that strong back retraction.
Coming up in just a few seconds, we should hear that Dragon is in terminal count.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count.
All right, there we heard that call. Dragon onboard computers have now taken control of the vehicle. As I mentioned before, first stage LOX or liquid oxygen loading is underway and will wrap up at T-minus 3 minutes. And the second stage will wrap its LOX load at T-minus 2 minutes. Launch teams continue to report no issues, and everything remains green and for an on-time launch.
Retract has started.
And here in just a couple seconds, you might be able to see the strong back arm as it does begin to retract. As Kate said, it will recline 2 degrees.
We can just barely make out that the clamp arms are now beginning to move. All right, now that those clamp arms are removed, as Sandra said, this will retract by 2 degrees, and then at liftoff, the strong back will retract another to 45 degrees, allowing Falcon 9 to clear. Strong back is part of the transporter erector, and the transporter erector is what provides the liquids and the gases and the electrical connections to the vehicle. It's also what we use to integrate the vehicle in its horizontal position, and we can see that 2-degree retraction just now complete.
And the next call out that we should hear in about 20 seconds is that the first stage LOX load is complete.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there we go, all of the oxidizer loaded on stage 1. Soon we'll hear that stage 2 LOX load is complete, and that will be the last propellant call out we'll hear today. Now less than 3 minutes until launch.
Dragon is in terminal count and is on internal power.
All right, there we heard the good news that Dragon is now on internal power. Again, the white clouds that you see there at the base of the Dragon trunk, totally normal. That's just the vapor from the liquid oxygen. Again, second stage now wrapping up its LOX load. Excuse me, first stage wrapping up its LOX load just a few minutes ago, and now moving toward wrap up of second stage LOX load, which will complete at T-minus 2 minutes.
Coming up on 2 minutes until liftoff, standing by for word that stage 2 LOX load has been completed.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
There we heard the call out. Falcon 9 is now completely fueled. All of its propellants, so
Gas closeouts are starting. Expect loud venting.
all of its propellants, and we can see that leftover liquid oxygen now being vented or released, now flowing further away from the vehicle. So nearly 1 million pounds of liquid oxygen in RP1 now on board Falcon 9. It is fully loaded and ready for launch.
And coming up at T-minus 1 minute, we'll hear that Dragon is in countdown. Its flight computer will switch to countdown mode, and we'll hear that the flight termination system on Falcon 9 is armed.
FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
And there you heard it,
Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon's flight computer in countdown. The flight termination system now armed.
We should get the final go for launch from SpaceX launch director Mark Surtees.
Dragon, SpaceX, Godspeed, go for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, go for launch.
SpaceX reports go. Crew reports go. 30 seconds until liftoff.
T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And liftoff. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We're now at T plus 35 seconds into the 5th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Coming up in just a few seconds, we'll hear the call out for stage 1 throttle down.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Falcon 9 engines throttling down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
This period is known as max Q, and once the vehicle, there we just heard that the vehicle is now traveling faster than the speed of sound. Once through max Q, we'll throttle those Merlin engines back up.
Max Q. Stage 1 throttle up. Stage 1 throttle.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Copy 1 Bravo.
That call out for 1 Bravo means we're in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, continuing to get good performance. The crew is already pulling over 2 Gs. And next up is going to be a couple of events in rapid succession. First will be engine chill on the second stage and back engine. And there you heard that call out. And then we'll have MECO, or main engine cutoff, where the 9 engines igniting will cut off in preparation for second stage separation. Then we'll see the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage ignite and continue to carry the Crew 5 astronauts to orbit.
Just like we did on first stage, that MVAC chill is intended to help pre-chill the hardware prior to the full flow of that densified liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 throttle down.
At this point in time, those 9 Merlin engines are beginning to throttle down in preparation for MECO, or main engine cutoff.
Standing by for MECO.
And MECO.
Stage 2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed. Copy 2 Alpha.
There we should see that second engine begin to ignite now. And obviously confirmed by the loud cheer behind us here at Mission Control Hawthorne.
And we're also in 2 Alpha for the aborts if needed. Again, second stage is lit and continuing to carry the Crew 5 astronauts into orbit.
We're now getting a view of the first stage after that stage separation. The second stage still being illuminated by that single Merlin vacuum engine, and that's on the right-hand side of your screen. First stage on the left-hand side of your screen making its way back to Earth. We will be attempting to land it on our drone ship, which today we are using Just Read the Instructions.
Acquisition signal, Bermuda.
And we did hear that acquisition of the ground station in Bermuda. The first stage is continuing to make its way back to Earth, and the second stage is going to continue.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Another good call, trajectory nominal.
Dragon copy.
Confirmation there from Commander Nicole Mann. You can also sort of see the Space Coast there in the background of the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen. It also looks like you can actually see the thrust plume created by the first stage as it's now rotating just out of screen.
Second stage is going to continue firing until a little over 8 minutes into the flight, really doing the heavy lifting now, getting the crew into orbit.
Everything continues to look nominal on both first and second stages. As I mentioned before, the first stage will be making a landing on one of our drone ships, which is currently parked a couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. So we can see now that
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Good confirmation there that we have good trajectory.
The second stage now traveling over 5,400 miles per hour. Crew is pulling a little more than 1G right now. That's going to continue to ramp up, peaking just before we get to second stage cutoff here in just a few minutes from now.
First stage will be performing 2 separate burns, a re-entry burn where we reignite 3 of the Merlin M1D engines on the first stage. We ignite the center engine and 2 radial engines to help slow it down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. And then the second final burn, and that will be the landing burn on our drone ship.
And the single MVAC engine that you see.
Trajectory nominal.
The single MVAC engine that you see on the right of your screen is continuing to fire. We did hear another call out that trajectory is nominal. Crew heading in the direction that they are supposed to be. This single engine can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. Now over 200 kilometers in altitude. We will start to hit events now in a rapid succession as the first stage continues to make its way back to Earth and the second stage continues its burn. Just a couple minutes left in that burn.
For those of you just joining us, just over 6.5 minutes ago, our 4 Crew 5 astronauts launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and they are now making their way into orbit on the second stage inside Crew Dragon.
Trajectory nominal.
Which we're hearing that the trajectory on that is nominal.
Dragon copy.
They are safe inside Dragon Endurance, whereas the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen is making its way back to Earth. We are coming up to the re-entry burn, which, as I said before, we ignite 3 of the 9 Merlin engines to help slow the booster down as it re-enters the dense part of the Earth's atmosphere. As the entry burn completes, we'll be in the final...
Stage 1, entry burn startup.
So there we heard the call out. You can there see it on your screen that that entry burn has been initiated.
And as that entry burn completes, we'll be in the final different abort phases here shortly, which essentially correspond to areas along the very northeastern seaboard of the U.S.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Great news, that entry burn was shut down, and then those last all the way across the Atlantic off the coast of Scotland for those abort zones.
Everything continues to look nominal for both the first and second stages.
And the crew with the second stage still attached is now traveling over 13,000 miles per hour.
We're about 10 seconds away from SECO 1.
Copy, Shannon.
Shannon,
Stage 1 transonic.
That call out for Shannon, Ireland, indicative of our final abort zone. After this, we'll see second stage shut off, and we'll be listening for confirmation of a good orbit, which tells us the crew and Dragon are exactly where they need to be.
There we had confirmation that the
Stage 1 landing burn.
has shut down simultaneously. The entry.
Dragon SpaceX nominal orbit insertion.
And you heard that call for a good insertion. We will coast for a few minutes.
There we can see the drone ship coming into view as Falcon 9 attempts.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
You can see those landing legs have now deployed. And as you can see on your screen, and you can hear by the clapping and cheering behind me, Falcon 9 has landed on our drone ship just through the instructions, parked off the coast of Florida.
And again, that second stage separation will be coming up just a couple of minutes now. We do coast for a few minutes after second engine cutoff to allow any rates or motion to dampen out and settle. And looks like we're going to get a view of the second stage as it separates here shortly. We did hear that the crew has been successfully inserted into a good orbit. Again, the crew is still attached to the second stage.
We are expecting stage separation to occur in just over a minute from now, about 1 minute and 8 seconds. And that's when the, when the second stage will separate from the Dragon trunk. The Dragon trunk is the part of hardware where we are able to house the cargo that is able to be exposed to the vacuum of space, as well as the solar panels which help power Dragon while it is on orbit. Again, that stage separation is now coming up in about 30 seconds. After stage separation, we will have nose cone deployment. Now that Dragon is in the vacuum of space, we will be able to open the nose cone and expose that forward hatch, which is what is utilized to dock autonomously with the International Space Station.
And that nose cone does stay closed for the flight uphill to help protect all of the guidance, navigation, and control sensors. We are standing by for second stage separation. And there is separation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And Dragon, this is your launch director.
Dragon captain is in.
And Dragon, this is your launch director on Dragon. On behalf of the entire launch and recovery team, it was an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this mission with you. And while October 3rd may belong to the Mean Girls, October 5th will forever belong to Crew 5. Godspeed, Endurance. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much to the Falcon team. Woo! That was a smooth ride uphill. You got 3 rookies that are pretty happy to be floating in space right now, and 1 veteran astronaut who's pretty happy to be back as well. Let's see what you got to say, Koichi.
Falcon team, it was a smooth ride, and I see all the 3 happy faces here. Back in 0G, and I appreciate all the help to give us a smooth ride and training. And thank you so much. JAXA の支援隊の皆さん、非常にスムーズな打ち上げでした。打ち上げご支援していただいた皆さん、応援に駆けつけてくださった皆さん、ありがとうございました。この調子でチームワークを持って頑張ります。Thank you for your support. Anya.
Thank you, Falcon 9 and fellow agencies, to Roscosmos, NASA, and JAXA, and SpaceX exactly for giving us that opportunity. We're so glad to do it together. And thank you for everybody, for all people who with us. Спасибо большое всем агентствам Роскосмос, НАСА, JAXA и, естественно, SpaceX за предоставленную нам возможность. Мы рады всем экипажам делать то, что мы сейчас делаем. И большое спасибо всем людям, кто сейчас с нами.
Some really nice words there from the Crew 5 crew, as well as...
And Dragon Falcon 9C, thanks for the words. Had a great ride. Have a good mission. We'll see you later.
A wonderful Mean Girls reference there by Launch Director Mark Soltis, and then we just heard from Chief Engineer Dan Alex. And we just heard our first Quindar tone, indicating the crew is in space.
Dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. Expected loss of signal, New Hampshire.
Dragon copy.
And Kate, it did look like we were getting our first views of that microgravity indicator.
I did see that as well.
And we're getting views now of the crew on orbit, 3 of them for the first time ever. We saw some cheers, some high fives. Looks like they're feeling great.
Hopefully we can see that 0G indicator float back into view and hopefully get a better shot of it. I couldn't quite tell what it was, although it kind of looked like it may have been an Einstein doll. But that's just kind of what it looked like from the backside.
I think you're right, Kate. It looked like a baby Einstein to me. So the next milestone that we're looking ahead towards is the nose cone opening.
If you've just joined us, we had a successful liftoff exactly 16 minutes ago of the Crew 5 mission. They had an on-time liftoff from Kennedy Space Center at noon Eastern Time. They had a smooth ride up to orbit. The first stage landed successfully on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, and everything has been looking good so far. We are hoping to get another view on board Dragon once we're able to get that camera back. But so far, everything leading up to this point in time, we got a shot there of the MVAC engine, which is no longer firing. It is coasting with that it's attached to the second stage, which has been separated from Dragon. So everything was super smooth this morning, starting all the way back. I think we got here around T-4 hours, and super smooth countdown. Beautiful day from Kennedy Space Center. It looked like a gorgeous view from where Daryl and Bob were sitting. But yeah, we are standing by for the nose cone opening. Now that the Dragon spacecraft is in space, we are able to...
Expected loss of signal in Finland.
We are able to open up that nose cone and expose the forward hatch, which is what is utilized to autonomously dock with the International Space Station, but of course to protect that hardware as well. As well as protect the guidance and navigation control hardware. We keep that nose cone closed during launch preparations and during the ascent portion. So as you can saw there momentarily, Dragon is in space, and the Crew 5 astronauts, all 4 of them are floating, or they will be able to float soon. We're hoping to get another view of that 0G indicator once we're able to bring onboard cabin views back to you of the Crew 5 crew. We always like to see what the 0G gravity indicator is. As you saw earlier in the webcast, Bob actually brought the 0G indicator that he and Doug used on the Demo 2 mission, a lovely sequin dinosaur, which I also have one at my desk. Bob obviously has the one that went to space. Mine is a replica, but we love seeing these 0G indicators. It's a really nice way to connect those of us on ground with the folks up in space. So as I said before, we are anticipating nose cone deployment shortly. I'm going to do a quick check-in, and there we can see now the nose cone, the hooks have been released, and we see that nose cone moving with a pretty up-close shot.
We're continuing to see that nose cone open, and
acquisition of signal line.
As we've mentioned, this does uncover a number of critical systems for the flight up to the space station that will be required for docking. There are 6 hooks that hold the nose cone in place during the launch and ascent portions. Those have begun to retract, and the nose cone is beginning to swing open. The nose cone is about 2/3 of the way open at this time, so we do expect it to be fully open here shortly.
Shortly after nose cone deployment, the crew will be able to get their visors open, and they'll be given the okay to get out of their suits, and that will allow them to settle in for their ride to the International Space Station.
It is about a 29-hour journey for the crew from launch to docking to the space station, but as you said, they'll be able to get out of their suits, get comfortable, get some rest, and just enjoy being in the microgravity environment of space. Again, we have 3 first-time flyers and 1 veteran on today's flight, but I'm sure it was an exciting moment. No matter how many times you've been to space, I can't imagine that it ever gets old.
I would probably agree with that. I would also imagine that the 3 first-time spacegoers will have a brief period of acclimation to gravity. I know I certainly would, and I also recognize that my period probably wouldn't be very brief in order to get acclimated to that lack of gravity. But yeah, this is something that the veteran astronauts on board station are, always happy to help really introduce the new spacegoers to the new environment.
Absolutely, and we did also hear that there was good service section Draco checkouts that took place. We are standing by for that nose cone to be fully deployed, but it should be coming here momentarily.
Dragon, we see a nominal nose cone opening, TCS and forward bulkhead Draco checkouts.
Dragon copies.
Next burn is the upcoming phase burn per your displays.
We see the phase burn in 28 minutes.
Good readback.
So you heard it there, the nose cone has fully been opened successfully. We had some good checkouts on the Draco thrusters, on the service section Draco thrusters rather, and we also had nominal forward bulkhead checkouts.
That's right, and the astronauts should be getting the okay to doff or remove their suits in about 6 or 7 minutes. I would imagine that, as Sandra mentioned before, we do have 3 space newbies on board today. I would imagine that they would be pretty excited to get out of their seats. They've been in these seats for a while. The crew ingressed hours ago, and I would imagine that the 3 folks and even the veteran, everybody would be excited to get out and be able to float around a little bit for the first time on this Crew 5 mission.
Yes, absolutely. And you do see the crew working through some procedures there on the touchpads that they do have in front of them. They'll continue to have those available for them throughout their flight uphill. Again, this is going to be about a 29-hour launch to docking for Crew 5.
It seems as though that 0G indicator may have floated out of view, perhaps up above the crew displays. We can see that the visors are up.
Dragon, SpaceX, environments are looking good for suit doffing. For today, we can leave the camera configured for a little while longer, but at this time, you are go for 4.012 and 4.300. As a reminder, please stow the suits with the visors closed. I'll copy.
Okay, Dragon copies. We are go for 4.012 and 4.300. We're going to keep the cameras configured, and when we stow the suits, we'll do it with the visors closed.
Good readback. At this time, you're also go to tell the world a little bit about that stowaway we saw shortly after second engine cutoff.
So we're standing by for a few words from the crew about that zero-G indicator. And there it is.
Expected launch. Dragon back in the ground. We missed the last part of your transmission.
And no worries, repeating my last one there. I was going to have you all talk a little bit about your zero-G indicator, but we can hold that off for the next ground station pass here for Dubai. At this time, what I'll do is I'll take the cameras external for suit doffing, and then you let me know when they're allowed to come back on board.
Okay, Dragon copies. So we'll let you know when you come back on with the cameras, and we're excited to talk about our stowaway here.
Okay, Dragon copies and working.
And it does sound like we are in a brief expected loss of signal with the crew. This does happen from time to time when we're in between our satellites, but we will have views and communication back with them here shortly, and we're looking forward to hearing their words on their stowaway and what that special meaning is for the crew. So with Crew 5 now successfully on orbit, let's head over to our counterparts at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Daryl, it was spectacular to watch this launch from here in Hawthorne, but tell me, what was it like to see it on the ground?
It was amazing. First of all, we got an idyllic day right here on the Space Coast. I mean, the temperatures are like, mid-70s. There's a cool breeze. Phenomenal launch. Bob, I want to get your thoughts. You've flown, you've watched. This was pretty perfect.
No, this was just outstanding. It was picturesque, with the blue sky, the blue background, a beautiful day here in Florida. The only thing I wish was that I was there with them, because that is the one place that is better to watch a launch from than right here at the Kennedy Space Center is on board the rocket ship.
I got to believe that. And though we weren't on board, we did get to watch the views as we were going up and saw them land the booster, which, by the way, that booster also going to be SpaceX's and NASA's Crew 6 booster. So more the reuse, NASA taking advantage of that as well.
Absolutely. Every chance that we get to reuse a capsule or reuse a booster kind of drives down costs and increases the opportunity for more folks to fly in space.
Now I'm headed out to take a swim, right? I mean, this is just perfect out here. Bob, thank you for your thoughts. And now we're going to move on. We've got an interview here with Robin Gatens, the director of the International Space Station, who also joins us here. And you got to experience the launch from right here outside the press site. And I want to ask you, how did you enjoy it?
Well, it's always exciting to see launch to the International Space Station. I've seen many, but especially to see a new international crew headed to the International Space Station was very exciting. And of course, you nailed it. Beautiful day. Really glad we got this one off today.
Absolutely, and they'll make that 29-hour transit to the space station. You're the director of the International Space Station, so I want to ask you, I heard there's a book coming out there have been books before about the International Space Station, but a new one's coming out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called Our Benefits to Humanity. It is a publication we have put out before, and we actually released it in July, so it's out. It's both in print format as well as online, so people can just search on Benefits for Humanity, International Space Station, and find that book. And it highlights all of the wonderful research that's going on the space station. This crew will be doing over 200 experiments during their time on the International Space Station, ranging from medical kinds of research that will help treat diseases and produce new drugs here on Earth, regenerative medicine. One day we might even print organs for transplant on Earth. We have Earth science going on space station, a number of climate instruments to help us understand Earth's climate. Really exciting results. This is truly what we call the decade of results on the International Space Station, where we're building on past lessons and capabilities to just compound the results that we're able to get out of the space station.
And 235 investigations, 76 new ones, and you mentioned the decade. 2 decades, more than 2 decades, the International Space Station has been operating. You mentioned some of the science that they're going to be doing. Now I'm wondering if you have a favorite that you've kind of identified, like, oh, I can't wait to find out the results of that.
Well, I've been tracking a lot of them. I'm really excited about some of the medical things. We're flying again a payload by a company called Lambda Vision, and they're producing retinal implants that could be used to help patients with ocular degeneration. So that's really exciting. I'm excited about what we're learning, with respect to the climate. We got brand new climate instruments up on board. We've got companies learning how to make better products through their research on through the ISS National Lab and their work on the space station. So I'm also excited about plant research going on space station. I think that's not only important for future exploration missions, but also to help us grow plants in harsh environments, small spaces here on Earth.
And also NASA, while doing all of that, is continuing to work towards its ultimate goal of getting to the moon, going back to the moon and sustaining our presence there. A lot of technology at the station that works towards that end. We want to actually pause, though, for 1 second, because we understand that one of the astronauts, Josh Cassada, has a statement that he is going to make. It is relatively about his zero-G indicator, which, if you saw in the coverage, it was I don't know if it was a baby Einstein, Bob, but it was a little Einstein.
It definitely looked like a small Einstein, but we'll listen to Josh and hear exactly the details.
Let's listen in. Again, waiting for astronaut Josh Cassada with a special message.
And Dragon, cameras are internal.
SpaceX. Dragon copies. We are internal with the waistbands off and stand by for the cabin mic check.
You can see Koichi Wakata is out of his seat.
Yeah,
SpaceX Dragon from the cabin mic com check.
And Koichi, I've got you 5x5. How me?
Mike, we have you loud and clear also.
Great news, and we're also getting some great views inside the capsule here, so if you all want to get a chance to talk about your indicator, we'd all love to hear some.
Absolutely, Mike. So, a couple years after he come up with his groundbreaking theory of special relativity,
Albert Einstein, in his mind, still had a couple loose ends to tie up. While he was sitting in the patent office, because he wasn't famous yet, definitely should have been, he had what his happiest thought of his entire life. That thought was, person in free fall doesn't feel their own weight. That thought, along with some others that he built upon, led to general relativity and our understanding of gravitation and curvature of space-time. We're experiencing Einstein's happiest thought continuously, like the International Space Station has been doing for over 20 years. On Crew 5, call this little guy our free fall indicator. We're here to tell you there's plenty of gravity up here. In fact, that's what's keeping us in orbit right now and preventing this trip on a Crew Dragon from being a one-way trip. A little bit like life. We live in the same world, we live in the same universe. Sometimes we experience it in a very different way from our neighbors. We can all keep that in mind. Hopefully we can all continue to do absolutely amazing things, do it together.
Well, that was excellent, Josh. We appreciate you all taking the chance to share with us some of those special words and some of the meaning to you all.
I tell you, my crewmates are just happy that we didn't break out a dry erase board and get into more details.
We'll chat lensing later.
Absolutely.
A message from
at this time,
astronaut Josh Cassada, the pilot of Crew 5, and his fellow astronauts and cosmonaut, floating in space high above the Earth as they head to the International Space Station with a special message about Albert Einstein, who is represented there floating around space as the zero-G indicator, but then also a nod to his theory of relativity. E equals mc squared, I believe, Bob.
Well, there are a lot of great things that Einstein was responsible for, and I would just say that maybe there are 5 folks experiencing his happiest thought on board the Dragon capsule just right now.
Absolutely, and NASA is looking to return humans to the surface of the moon, and this is part of it, going to the International Space Station. We mentioned some of the efforts in going up there, and of course the science that's going to be done by Crew 5. We're looking forward to that as well. Some final thoughts, Bob, about the day today.
Well, it was just a wonderful day, a chance for me to relive the launch experience with the Falcon 9 and the Dragon capsule, and I'm just super excited for the Crew 5 and little Einstein on board and in free fall right now.
A very special moment indeed. Before we wrap up, I want to send it over to Megan Cruz, who is with Deputy Administrator and former Space Shuttle astronaut Pam Melroy.
I am Pam, and I have just been chatting about how wonderful of a day this was for a launch.
Oh, it's a gorgeous day here at the historic Kennedy Space Center. For me to see the next generation of launch vehicles launching to the space station was thrilling.
And also the next generation of young explorers. You know, you and I were talking about a young boy here, guys, that bought a space suit, an astronaut suit from downstairs at our store and was wearing it around and running around. How cute was that to see him so excited?
Well, I found it pretty cute to see the 3 rookies who were on the flight, as well as my very dear personal friend, Koichi Wakata, who I flew with in 2000 to the space station. So I'm inspired by both the young and the experienced.
And speak to me about that like you said, you've flown on the space shuttle 3 times. Talk to me about that ascent, how it must feel as they're going up through the atmosphere.
It's absolutely a remarkable experience, and I found myself thinking as I was looking at the schedule for this rocket, how physics drives so much of what we do. So it's very similar in the timing of everything, but the space shuttle was a little bit of a wild ride, I have to say. It had a lot of vibration, particularly the first 2 minutes. But you know, it's a very different experience when you're here on the ground. It always brings tears to my eyes. I pray for the crew. When you're inside the vehicle, you're having a blast.
So I'm glad to hear that they were having a blast. Talk to me about why these commercial crew missions are so important.
Well, they're really important to us for a lot of different reasons. The whole value that NASA brings to the American people, and in fact to humanity, is around science, a strong science and technology posture for the country, and inspiration. And we see that all wrapped up in Commercial Crew, because we see the ability to do more science on orbit because we can carry more crew members. We see the advancements that have been made through NASA investments in Commercial Crew and commercial cargo that are lifting our entire space industry. And of course, there's nothing better than seeing an astronaut fly to space for inspiration.
Sure. And what's next for NASA? You know, right behind us, we have the vehicle assembly building. Inside is NASA's Artemis 1 rocket. Are you excited for that?
Oh, I'm very excited. I'll tell you, it's a big deal when a new rocket flies for the first time. And we have learned a lot. We have a lot to learn, just like I was a test pilot. So when we flew airplanes, we never actually launched the first try. Usually we just taxied down the runway. So we've taken her out to the runway a couple of times now, and we've learned a lot. And I cannot wait to see the most powerful rocket in the world launch going to the moon.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of great stuff here, and we're so happy to bring viewers on the ride with us, right?
You bet. That's the whole idea. NASA shares and inspires.
Perfect. Pam, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Guys, we're going to send it back to you for the last time today.
Thank you very much, Megan. Great job out there. Appreciate it. And Nicole, Josh, and Koichi and Anna are now on course to arrive at the International Space Station around 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. And of course, NASA TV will stay on the air for continuous live coverage along Crew 5's entire ride to station. Meanwhile, SpaceX's YouTube channel will join live coverage starting at roughly 2 hours prior to docking. And though our coverage here at Kennedy is coming to a close, we will turn it over to the team in Houston to take us through the next phases of the Crew 5 mission all the way through their arrival at the International Space Station. For those of you watching online on NASA's YouTube, make sure you take a look at the description below. You'll see the video link there, and you'll find that for Crew 5 Coast Phase. Live coverage will continue at that link shortly. You can see it at the bottom of your screen. Pull that up for you. If you're watching on NASA TV, you won't notice a thing, and coverage will continue. So a post-launch news conference is scheduled for 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NASA TV, and you can find mission updates on Twitter at NASA, at SpaceX, and on the web at nasa.gov, including timing on any potential live tours of Dragon Endurance during the trip to station. Now, before we sign off from Kennedy, I want to thank my partner and co-host, Bob Benkin, for being on the launch broadcast, sharing your incredible insight and experiences. Bob, I really enjoyed listening to you today. Thank you so much. To you and to Megan, your wife, who helped us with Crew 4. We look forward to hearing more from your family, as well as maybe seeing Theo on a future launch broadcast.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I very much appreciate that. And of course, thank you to my wife and my son and our dog Shadow for joining us for a short period of time during today's broadcast. And again, I just want to echo Deputy Administrator Pam Mulroy's words with it's been an exciting year. The Crew 5 folks are just getting started on their excitement for the year, if you will, on their way to the space station right now. But we've got an Artemis 1 rocket over there, the SLS, in the vehicle assembly building. Looking forward to seeing that back out on the pad and getting her launched later this year.
Coming to a launch pad soon, mid-November, we all hope, and we're looking forward to that as well immensely. Huge thanks to all of our guests for joining us today, and thank you to all of you for watching. Here now are the highlights from the journey we took today, and just a reminder from here at the Kennedy Space Center to keep looking up. They're getting suited up inside that historic suit-up room, everything going smoothly. And there they are, the astronauts of Crew 5 taking their first steps outside.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, engines full power, and liftoff. Go Crew 5.
is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion.
Welcome to Mission Control Houston. I'm NASA Shaniqua Vereen, and we are live in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Just about 50 minutes ago, we had a successful launch of NASA's SpaceX Crew 5 mission to the International Space Station from the Kennedy Space Center at Launch Complex 39A in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Crew 5 will have about a 29-hour flight to the space station. Crew 5 lead flight director Greg Whitney, who led integrated NASA and SpaceX operations teams and planning for this mission, is currently leading teams here in Mission Control and will be back later tomorrow for Dragon's approach and docking. Crew 5 astronauts consist of NASA astronaut and Dragon commander Nicole Mann, NASA astronaut and Dragon pilot Josh Cassada, mission specialist JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Russian cosmonaut Anna Kikina. Expedition 68 is currently aboard the International Space Station, including the Crew 4 astronauts, NASA's Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jessica Watkins, and the current station commander and European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. They arrived back in April of 2022 and are set to come home next week. Also aboard the station is NASA astronaut Frank Rubio and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Patelin of Roscosmos, who recently arrived to the space station aboard a Soyuz spacecraft. With the addition of Crew 5, we'll have 11 people aboard the station for a short period of time. Currently attached are 4 spacecrafts, including the SpaceX Crew Dragon Freedom, which brought up the Crew 4 astronauts, a Russian Soyuz MS-22 cruise ship, and Progress 80 and 81 resupply ships. Crew 5 is not the only thing headed to station. That's right, we have critical science and investigations headed up with the crew. Here are some details on the science the crew will work on their mission. Astronauts experience changes in their cardiovascular, respiratory, and musculoskeletal systems during spaceflight. These changes could pose a challenge on future long-duration missions, particularly those where crews encounter different levels of gravity and have minimal direct medical support. CardioBreath, a Canadian Space Agency investigation flying with the crew, examines deconditioning of the cardiorespiratory system and how it affects the control of blood pressure. Crew members will wear a custom-fitted biomonitor shirt that tracks heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and activity level before, during, and after exercise. Results are then compared to measurements taken before and after the astronauts' missions. These findings could provide insight into how blood pressure control adapts and help researchers develop ways to keep astronauts healthier in space.
Dragon, burn complete, nominal burn. Next burn is the phase burn per your displays in approximately 20 hours.
Copies, we see that burn coming up in 20 hours.
Try to contain your excitement just for a little while longer. And when able, we do have some words for Josh to plan or to talk through some of the actions we wanted to take on his suit. So no hurry on that one, but just when ready, report when you're ready to copy.
Good, Mike. We're ready to copy.
Okay, Josh, I've got 4 items here that we're looking for your eyes on. So I'll kind of go through the first 2 first, and then the second 2, because the first 2 are a little bit connected, and then the last 2 will be pretty straightforward. But first item that I have is that what we'd like you to do is remove the middle seat foam of your seat, and then verify that the seat side umbilical connection is secure by pressing firmly downwards directly above both latches. That's one firm push above each latch, and let us know if you hear any clicks or tactile feedback. How copy?
Hey, Mike, I copy that step one is going to be to take out the middle foam of my seat and make sure that that umbilical seat connected. I'll be doing that by pushing above the latches and see if I can even hear them click into place.
That's correct, and that's going to be, for the above, it's going to be kind of directly into the seat itself. Okay, after that, the second action that we have is that we're requesting that you then lightly pull the umbilical in the opposite direction of which way you'd be pushing in step one. The goal here is to see if pulling away is causing the latches to become loose. How copy?
Okay, copy. After step one, I will pull away from the connection and see if that makes the latches come loose.
Yep, and just for full clarification there, we're looking for just a light pull there, nothing too forceful. Okay, and we just finished up the handover over there, but if you're ready for item number 3, I'm ready to report.
Copy on items 3 and 4.
Okay, item number 3 is to inspect for any FOD around the inflatable visor seal, taking extra care around that polycarbonate portion of the visor.
Dragon copies, step 3 will be inspecting that inflatable visor seal, and I'll watch out for that polycarbonate.
Good readback, and then the last is to take one inspection of the trapdoor on the suit side QD and just look for any potential FOD on that side of the suit. How copy?
And the copy on step 4, I will go ahead and check the trapdoor on the QD side and just see if there's any FOD in there on my suit.
Good readback.
Dragon copies all 4 of those steps. We'll put those into work. We'll report back in 7 minutes and let you know how they went. And then can we get big picture words on the plan after that? Are we going to be doing another suit leak check here before the end of the workday, which we're happy to do, or do you want to push that off?
Great question. Overall, we are not recommending another leak check at this time. We're just getting a little bit more insight into the current status, knowing that we'll have the leak check for approach is going to be our first time stepping back into any kind of suited activities here. That may change if we discover something on here, but right now we're not planning on having you all re-perform a leak check today.
Copy. We'll knock out these 4, and we're not planning on another leak check actually until we start kicking off the rendezvous, if that's correct.
That's a good readback.
Thanks a lot, Mike. We appreciate it.
If you're just joining us, we're doing live coverage of the NASA SpaceX Crew 5 mission. Their launch to the International Space Station was successful this morning around 11 a.m. CT, 12 noon Eastern Time. Currently on your screen is Hawthorne Mission Control MCCX on your left, and International Space Station Flight Control Room here at Mission Control Houston on the right, where teams are still in contact with the crew. You just heard the Corps and SpaceX's Mission Control speaking to Josh Cassada as they went over.
Listen, I am on my way, no matter what they say. And when the chips are down, move strong, you can't go wrong. You try to be a star, don't you know that's already what you are? Yeah, I don't care, I don't really care. I don't care, don't you know? I always try to be the best I can. I don't care, I don't really care. No, no, I don't care, don't you know? I always give my best. Whether you win or lose, it's not up to you to choose. So don't be scared, you will succeed, 'cause you are well prepared. People like to criticize, of course you will polarize. It won't break your back, it's always easy to walk on a beaten track. Yeah, I don't care, I don't really care. No, no, I don't care, don't you know? I always try to be the best I can. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Hey! Once this is in your head, nothing else can drive you mad, baby. Woo! Oh yeah, I don't care, I don't really care. I don't care, don't you know? I always try to be the best I can. I don't care, I don't really care. No, no, I don't care, don't you know? I always try to be the best I can. Da, 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 da. Listen, I don't care. Da, 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 I don't care. Da, da, no, 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 no. Da, 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 and I don't care. Da, 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 hey, I don't care. Da, da, I don't really care.
Radio Swiss Pop. Music. Pure.
say to be free. No one seems to be your friend now when you're feeling all alone. And you go down to that place where you know there is someone. Oh, you know there must be someone else. Friends, it aches and it fills you up inside. Soon you look like you're an old man who just lost a fight. And you go down to that place where you know there is someone. Oh, you know there must be someone else. For you, confide in your friends. Yell it out now. Confide in your friends. Yell it out, you know it's by your old friends. Yell it out, confide in your trusted friends. He's waiting there for you, your friends. I remember the day that we met. You were like a light I didn't know that I needed. You had a smile that could warm up the New York cold. It wasn't long till we both caught feelings. I didn't know that we both had demons, but it's funny how time reveals it all. And you stayed out that night after we had a fight, and my friends said they saw you with him at the bar where we met. While I'm here in our bed, do you even regret what you did? 'Cause it was never meant to end like this, standing in the rain in your black dress. So go ahead and tell me what I did to deserve this. And I'm not saying we were perfect, I hope the one night with him was worth it, but telling me that it was a mistake don't make it hurt less. It don't make it hurt less. Standing there as you list off your reasons made me feel like a fool for believing. You reached for my hand as I turned to leave, but you keep on holding on. And your eyes started falling way down with despair. And you turned around and said this isn't fair. It was only one night, there were no feelings shared. So I looked in your eyes and I said, it was never meant to end like this, standing in the rain in your black dress. So go ahead and tell me what I did to deserve this. And I'm not saying we were perfect, I hope the one night with him was worth it, but telling me that it was a mistake don't make it hurt less. It don't make it hurt. I know the day will come when this won't hurt anymore, and all the pain is just an afterthought. If I'm I'm strong enough to let you in, I can let you out again. And I hope someday you'll find someone to love you like I did. 'Cause it was never meant to end like this, standing in the rain in your black dress. So go ahead and tell me what I did to deserve this. And I'm not saying we were perfect, oh, one other him was worth it. But telling me that it was a mistake don't make it hurt less. You don't make it hurt less. You don't make it hurt less. You don't make it hurt less.
You're so different from other boys. That's why I want you to share my world. Make no mistake, I'm on to you. That's why I love the things you do. You see now, me and you seems to share a certain chemistry. Maybe I'm on a trip. If so, that's where I wanna be. Don't stay away for too long, baby. My feelings for you's getting stronger than strong, baby. My tank is empty and I'm running on need. I can't explain it, just what's happened to me. Maybe I'm strong, but you make me weak. Right or wrong, you got just what my doctor recommended. Yeah. Special attention, babe, is what I need. No doubt about it, babe, it's guaranteed. I didn't want it, just came along. And just for you, I dedicate this song. You see now, me and you seems to share a certain chemistry. I can feel when your love reach out and touches me. Maybe I'm on a trip. If so, that's where I wanna be. Don't stay away for too long, baby. My feelings for you's getting stronger than strong, baby. My tank is empty and I'm running on need. I can't explain it, just what's happened to me. Baby, I'm strong, but you make me weak. Right or wrong, you got just what my doctor recommended. Don't stay away for too long, baby. My feelings for you's getting stronger than strong, baby. My tank is empty and I'm running on need. I can't explain it, just what's happened to me. Baby, I'm strong, but you make me weak. Right or wrong, you got just what my doctor recommended. Oh, listen to me. That's the point I want to say. Something right away. My tank is empty and I'm running on need. I can't explain it, just what's happened to me. Baby, I'm strong, but you make me weak. Right or wrong, you got just what my doctor recommended.
Radio Swiss Pop.
Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown. I set out to get you with a fine-tooth comb. I was soft inside. There was something going on. so fast, so smart. The world is at your feet, but what about your heart? Fame and fortune can't hold you tight. In the late, late hours of the night, how do you stop? How do you stop? All before it's too late. You choose and you lose if you hesitate. How do you stop? How do you stop? Before it's too late. Think love awaits so you don't hold on. Oh, and then it's gone. How do you stop? You've had success, lots of fancy friends. You've tasted the good life. You thought it would never end. One day you're too young, then you're in your prime, then you're looking back at the hands of time. How do you stop? How do you stop? Before it's too late. Oh, you choose and you lose if you hesitate. How do you stop? How do you stop? Before it's too late. You think love awaits so you don't hold on, and then it's gone. How do you stop? Oh, how do you stop a runaway train? How do you stop the driving rain? How do you stop the ripening corn? How do you stop the baby being born? How do you stop before it's too late? Oh, you choose and you lose if you hesitate. How do you stop? How do you stop before it's too late? How do you stop? How do you stop? You're lost if you hesitate. How do you stop? How do you stop? Love from slipping away. How do you stop? How do you stop? Before it's too late. It's 5 in the morning, my brother and I, we drive. We party last night, my brother and I, my loved ones, right? Dancing in the night when my father got that call. He told me, you will not believe me, feel so cold. It feels so empty inside. It feels like we could not even cry. I can't stop thinking about it. We found you down at the border. You were down close to the water. We miss you, brother, brother. I can't stop thinking about it. They found you down at the border. You were down close to the water. We miss you, brother, brother. nights that we ran with you. Landscape where you've grown and you've fed your suffering soul. In the end, nothing really ends. You just walk beyond the fence, but you know that your brother loves you so much even though you're gone. It feels like he could not even cry. I can't stop thinking about it. They found you down at the border. You were down close to the water. We miss you, brother, brother. I can't stop thinking about it. They found you down at the border. You were down close to the water. We miss you, brother, brother. I hope you found it. Be in orbit. We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Hello, and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we just watched a beautiful Crew 5 launch on the most beautiful Florida afternoon. I'm Megan Cruz with NASA Communications, and you are watching the post-launch news conference for today's mission. So let's jump right into it. We have first Kathy Leaders, Associate Administrator, Space Operations Mission Directorate here at NASA headquarters. Steve Stitch, Manager, Commercial Crew Program, NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Joel Montalbano, Manager, International Space Station Program at NASA Johnson. Also Sarah Walker, Director, Dragon Mission Management, SpaceX. Hiroshi Sasaki, Vice President and Director General, JAXA's Human Spaceflight Technology Directorate. And Sergei Krikalev, Executive Director, Human Spaceflight Programs, Roscosmos. Thank you all for being here. Now we're going to start with some opening remarks from each of them who I just introduced, and then we'll take questions from reporters. So Kathy, go ahead.
Oh, wow, what a beautiful launch. You know, it was nice to not be fighting the weather as we were heading into the count. And so actually we were all sitting there and things were looking really smooth, and I don't even think we had the weather up in Fire Room 4. So that was really enjoyable. But I think it was wonderful to see just how excited Nicole and Josh and Anna and our seasoned veteran Koichi were as they got on orbit. I mean, just once again experiencing being in space. And for us, it's always great to see that launch go through and see the spacecraft operating safely. Finally, you know, these are real human endeavors, and there's a team here that had to recover from the hurricane last week, get the Kennedy Space Center back open, get things cleaned up, get us ready to go, and the fact that we're here today is a testimony to all that work that team did. So I would really like to thank all the folks that worked so hard, and the SpaceX and NASA team that just carefully got us prepared for today. And now I'll turn it over to Steve Stitch.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here today. And as Kathy said, I guess I'm super excited with the launch today. The weather couldn't have been better here at the Kennedy Space Center. We didn't have to look at any weather on a monitor. We could just look out the window and see a beautiful blue sky. And really, it was that way along the ground track as well. You know, we talked about the abort winds at the staging location, and those were within limits today. So at our weather briefing at 6 hours prior to launch, we decided to go press into the countdown. What a great decision that was. The team did a phenomenal job working through the issues out of the launch readiness review. SpaceX recovered the drone ship that just read the instruction. That was ready. You saw the booster land perfectly on that. We replaced an actuator on engine 3, and that worked out great. Check that out. And then we got the fire suppression, a small leak fixed, and then we're ready to go fly. The vehicle is doing great on orbit. Dragon is doing well. Nose cone was open. Thrusters are doing great. All the systems are working fine. You could see Nicole and Josh and Anna and Koichi. They were all smiles and happy to be in space. They were so excited today. It's great to see them on orbit. And now we're going to focus the next 29 hours from launch to get them docked. And that docking time is 4:57 p.m. tomorrow afternoon Eastern. And so we'll really turn our attention to that phase of the flight. we're excited about the launch. We're excited Dragon's doing well, but we'll focus on docking and getting them safely docked to the space station. And now I'll turn it over to the Space Station Program Manager, Joel Montalbano.
Hey, thank you, Steve, and thank you guys for being here today, and for those who are dialing in. Just an outstanding launch, as you've already heard, and it is awesome to have 4 new space flyers on their way to the International Space Station. These guys, as Steve said, will dock just before 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. A hatch opening will be about 90 minutes later. It's just a little past 90 minutes for a hatch opening. They'll stay docked about 150 days. In 150 days, we'll have them doing human research experiments. We'll have them doing technology development. That's going to help us go past low Earth orbit and do further exploration, as well as they'll do some of our commercialization activities. As far as the handover between Crew 4 and Crew 5, it'll be about 5 days. Once the vehicle gets docked, we'll start working the details with the Commercial Crew Program and SpaceX on the actual weather, but we have a good handful of days of docked ops with the team. And with that, let me congratulate and thank our international partners, the Commercial Crew Program and the SpaceX team. Just a fantastic day to be in human spaceflight. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Joel. I have very similar things to say as my colleagues and friends up here today, so maybe I'll keep it short. But yeah, it was an incredible day to launch Dragon and Crew 5 to the space station. We're so excited to see Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna start their mission on board the orbiting laboratory. Someone reminded me as I was walking in here today that this mission actually marks 30 humans that SpaceX has sent to space. My life flashed before me kind of on hyperdrive, right? It feels like yesterday that Bob and Doug were driving up to the pad. That was May 2020, the first humans that SpaceX had the privilege of launching, and here we are, the 30 humans in space. Today, Falcon 9 launched Dragon into a nominal insertion orbit. That was about an hour and a half ago. And then that first stage booster, as Steve said, returned to just read the instructions, our drone ship, which was stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. It was actually happened to be a first flight booster, so it will be returning to shore soon for many more flights ahead, hopefully in the near future. Meanwhile, on orbit, Dragon has completed its initial on-orbit checkouts, and soon it will start performing a series of burns that will help it catch up with the International Space Station for docking tomorrow. It's about a 29-hour flight. Once safely docked, my team's focus is going to be fully on bringing the Crew 4 crew home safely to their friends and family in about a week's time after that. So we'll continue to watch the weather. The vehicle that is on board supporting the Crew 4 mission is healthy, and we'll watch for those conditions to safely bring the crew home and safe for our recovery teams as well. So thanks to the 45th Space Delta for enabling this launch today. Thank you especially to NASA and JAXA and Roscosmos for collaborating on this. How incredible, actually, that I have 3 nation space agencies here at the table representing this mission. A huge partnership and collaboration. So thank you for your partnership. Sasaki-san, would you like to give some words?
Thank you. Introduction. I'm Hiro Sasaki, Vice President JAXA, in charge of the human space flight and space exploration. This is the 3rd time to see Crew Dragon launch, but every time it's very beautiful. And on behalf of JAXA, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to every single colleague who has been devoted to the launch while facing the tough time under the hurricanes. But the mission is still going on, but I'd like to congratulate all of you on the successful launch. And I'm sure that Crew 5 mission is a symbol of a strong international partnership, and its importance is recognized, especially in the tough time we are facing now. I do believe that the international partnership has been and will continue to be a key to bring us a variety of benefits unavailable without the ISS. This is the 5th flight for Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata. He has rich experience in space, and I hope he transferred his experience to his colleague astronaut and create fruitful outcomes in the ISS with them, which are indispensable to our life on Earth and future exploration. I'm confident that Japan will continue to take a significant role in the human endeavor by making the best use of our expertise and open new era with international partners. Once again, congratulations on the successful launch. I'd like to First, Sergei Grigoriev, Russian colleague.
Thank you very much. It's difficult to add something to what was already said. I just want to say that we start new phase of our cooperation, start to do this exchange flight, because just a couple of weeks ago, American crew member went on Russian Soyuz spacecraft on the station, and now Russian cosmonaut Anna Kikina is member of this crew, and they are going to be on the station very soon and join together and keep working together. But starting that we start new phase, I want to mention that we just continue what was started many years ago in 1975 when Apollo-Soyuz crew worked together, and now we continue our cooperation. And also, I want to say that, of course, we celebrate a successful launch, but for the crew, it's just beginning of the mission. They need to dock tomorrow, and then they have many days of very interesting phase of their flight, new experiments, and I hope that all this flight would be successful. I would like to wish for the crew successful flight and good mission.
Thank you, everyone, for those opening remarks. We'll get into the questions now. We have some reporters here in the room, but also we have some reporters over the phone. If you are on the phone and want to get into the question queue, don't forget to hit *1. And to get to as many of you guys as possible, please ask one question. Let us know who you'd like to answer that question, and then we'll try to go around to see if anybody else has some other questions. So I saw the first hand over here. Oh, right over here, actually, right behind you.
She isn't like me.
Trying to be fair.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Tom Costello with NBC News. Again, congratulations on yet another great launch. To Sergei from the Russian Space Agency, I know you addressed this a few days ago, but in this setting, now that we have a television camera, how committed is Russia to this international cooperation, to the space station, and how long will you be a partner with the United States, with Japan, with Canada, with the international partners in this program?
This is two questions in your question. Basically, for how long, it depends on many things, and technical things would be probably primary. But talking about cooperation, I think we start to cooperate, as I said, many years ago, more than 40 years ago, and we will continue our cooperation as long as I can imagine.
Okay, and then right here. Yes, right here.
I am Jim Siegel. I'm with NASATech.net. Congratulations to all of you and your teams for a great launch here today. I believe I have a question for Sarah. I believe that Crew 4 had a investigation concerning artificial retinas. And I'm interested in whether that investigation is going to come back with Crew 4, or if it's going to stay on the space station for additional work. Thank you.
Yeah, let me take a run at that. That is true. We did do the Retina Experiment, and the cool thing about that is the results of that are going to help restore sight. The goal is that you take that information you use, and then you make a step closer to restoring sight for people that have lost it. I believe we returned some of that work on a cargo spacecraft. I thought SpaceX 25 returned some of that, but let me go verify that, and we'll close the loop with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
I saw Marcia's hand here on the first row.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Sergei. How does it feel for you being back here launching cosmonauts again from Kennedy Space Center? You were the first, after all. And also for your staff in Moscow, has the war been a distraction for them? The longer it goes, do you worry about them being distracted or having their work impacted by what's going on around them? Thank you.
Crew, which is flying now in space, which just launched in space tomorrow, they have a pretty tight schedule. They have a lot of assignment, and they will do what they're supposed to do. They were trained for that. So I hope distraction from what is going on the ground would be minimum, because we are trying to focus on scientific task, on engineering task, and crew will do what they're supposed to do. As for me, as I said, I was very pleased to be here again. I remember being here a long time ago when we start previous phase of our cooperation, when we start to do our shuttle missions, and then Mir shuttle program, and then construction of International Space Station. So for me, I'm very glad to see all friends, all colleagues, and as I said, I hope we will cooperate together the way it was started in 1975.
I didn't mean the crew being distracted. I meant flight controllers. Your team in Moscow, are they being distracted by the ongoing war in Ukraine and what's going on?
They also do what they're supposed to do. They do their duty, and actually we have a team not only in Moscow but also in Houston. We have a group of Russians who is in Russian mission control. We have a group of Americans who is in mission control in Moscow, and group of Russians in mission control in Houston. So this group is very focused on do what they're supposed to do.
Thank you. I saw a hand right there. Yeah, second row on this side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sergei Matov, Russian TASS News Agency. Well, first of all, congratulations everyone on today's launch. That was amazing. And I guess my question is for Steve, but maybe Joel or Katie would add something up. So I was curious about your take about the meaning of today's launch, first integrated crew launch on the U.S. soil. What does it mean for the future of Russia and U.S. cooperation? And maybe do you have any plans to extend the agreement after 2024? Thank you.
I'll take the first part, and then I'll let Joel talk about the agreement. But, I was very excited today to have another international partner fly on our commercial crew vehicles. It was great to see Anna fly. It's great to see Sergei again here. I got to work with Sergei a long time ago in Shuttle Mir, so it was neat seeing that colleague. And we're excited about continuing to fly international partner astronauts. We take these missions very seriously. Each one is a little different. And, I was sort of thinking and reflecting back, this is now our 6th crewed launch in just a little over 2.5 years, and each is different. But then when we go about the preparation, it's the same for every flight. I think an example of that preparation was today. I don't know if you were following when we were closing the hatch, but we take some closeout pictures of the hatch, the seals around the hatch, and the team at Hawthorne saw one human hair on that hatch seal and spotted it very quickly, said reopen the hatch and let's get that hair off and make sure it was good. So that's what our teams are doing on the NASA side here at Kennedy, at JSC, in partnership with SpaceX. And so it's a great team effort. And we're excited to continue to fly more and more cosmonauts and Japanese astronauts and ESA and our U.S. astronauts on our program.
From a cooperation standpoint, Sergei mentioned a little earlier, we've been cooperating with the Russian Space Agency since the Apollo-Soyuz. And the cool thing is General Stafford was at today's launch. He was in OSB-2 with us. And General Stafford has been, he's leads the U.S. Review Commission that reviews the space station program on a regular basis, and he's been part of this process. So it was good to see that. As far as future work, I think everybody's well aware we signed an agreement with Roscosmos for 1 flight this year, 1 flight next year, and 1 flight in 24. That's for all SpaceX missions. Once Boeing gets up and running, our plan is to continue this cooperation on the Boeing missions. As we extend space station, get partner across the board agreement to extend past 24, we would also extend the agreement as our goal.
Thank you, Stitch and Joel. We're going to pause in the room real quick and take a caller on the phone. We have Chris Davenport with the Washington Post.
Hi, thank you, and congratulations on another beautiful launch. For Mr. Krikalev, follow-up from my question the other evening. In your recent comments, including today and in the comments by Mr. Borisov the other day, it seems like you're both making a real effort to smooth over relations with NASA and to demonstrate that you're very committed to the partnership. And I can't help but notice how this stands in stark contrast to the way Mr. Rogozin spoke of the partnership when he was head of Roscosmos. And I wonder if it's part of a concerted effort to ease the tensions that arose under him and to turn down the temperature a bit. Thanks very much.
Answer is yes.
Okay, so we have another caller on the phone. That's Joey Roulette from Reuters.
Hey, thank you. I had a question for Mr. Krikalev. Beyond this crew exchange agreement Russia has with NASA, do you guys at Roscosmos have any other agreements with other countries to fly non-Russian astronauts on Soyuz? And if not, are you guys in talks with those countries to lock in such an agreement? Thanks.
So it's to me? Yes. Okay. So we have kind of preset agreement, and nothing new is happening. We just recently flew UAE astronaut on Soyuz spacecraft, and we have tourists flying on the station, and we have special procedure every time we fly non-partner crew member on board Soyuz or American vehicle. We need to have full agreement from our international partners. So we did it for, as I said, for UAE cosmonaut, and in the future we are planning to get new country, new programs, new agencies involved in space flights, and we just follow procedure that was set a while ago, and we just agree with each other for every next step.
Okay, back here in the room, Ken, I remember you raised your hand, first row right here in the blue.
Hi, thank you, Ken Kramer, for Space Up Close, and congratulations to all of you again on a beautiful launch, especially after the hurricane. So, Sergey, let me ask you a question. It's an honor to have you here. You're a hero to all the people that love space. Thanks for being here. I want to ask you about your perspective on the ISS, since you were the first one on the first mission. It's grown tremendously. Tell us about your expectations for the ISS. Has it met them? Has it exceeded them? What do you hope the ISS will lead to in the future?
Yeah, that's a complicated question, and probably it's a big story behind of what was planned initially, what we are going to do in the future. And I can just remind you that when we just started this program, every module was built in order to fly for 15 years. We actually exceed this 15 years time mark long time ago, and station was extended a couple times. Right now we have agreement to fly together up to 2024. We already talk with our international partners, and we talk with our specialists in Russia, looking through technical capability of station to fly, and we understand that it makes sense to keep flying, because this excellent infrastructure that built in space can be used for humanity even more than we were initially planned. I think from very beginning we understood that station is very valuable to do science in space, on low Earth orbit, but also we understand that station is test bed for future flights, for flying more exciting mission to fly beyond low Earth orbit, and we can test a lot of equipment, a lot of procedures, a lot of methods of flying working on International Space Station. So that's what we are keeping now. We are going to keep it in future, and we will see how long station will be able to fly. And I think main limitation would be technical reason.
Thank you. And there's a question back here on this side of the room, last row.
Hi, Aaron Cooper with CNN. I understand that Soyuz has been able to do some fast track docking attempts. Why hasn't that been tried with the Dragon missions? And is there thought in the future of doing kind of expedited or faster trips up to ISS?
Yeah, I mean, the missions are not very long, on the order of a day, plus or minus a few hours here and there. And it really just depends on the orbital mechanics of when what day we launch and where the space station is, and how many burns to catch up. But I think, Joel, maybe you could speak to this, but I think a day or less is a nice short mission to get up to the space station. And
then when you constrain your launch to like hours, you do have to constrain the launch date. And so having the 1 day helps us maximize the opportunities. And Steve.
Yeah, we could have launched right anytime this week. We had a launch opportunity tomorrow, which was a little longer rendezvous, 10 more hours, about 38 and a half hours to dock. So what we have chosen to do is sort of optimize any time launch, I would say, and have as many opportunities as possible. Some of those are as short as about 16 hours to dock. Some of those are a little longer, like the one we're taking today. And so what we've chosen to do is sort of optimize any day launch just to handle the weather situation here at the Kennedy Space Center, our launch environment, which is lots of launches on the range, and then also abort weather, which we have some criteria up the coast. And so we've chosen to do that versus sort of optimize the Dragon to launch, in a couple orbits, which it could feasibly do that if we chose to do so.
And I believe I saw one last hand in the room. Yep, can we just have him in the front row?
Yeah, hi, John McGill with Wyandotte Cable. This question's for Sarah. We've been getting used to previously flown boosters. So how does a new booster differ in your preparation?
Yeah, there's not difference in the checks that we do in preparing for the launch and certifying the booster. We have a production facility in Hawthorne in California, and we have a number of lanes of refurbishment capability here at the Cape. So there's different activities that we do, whether we're performing maintenance or we're building a new one, but this was more so just happenstance that due to the timing of this launch, this one was a new booster to come off the line, and we try to make sure that we have boosters ready to support our customers' needs.
From a NASA perspective, we like getting the new boosters. I mean, every time SpaceX puts a new booster in the fleet, they continue to make, I would say, safety improvements to the boosters, better inspections of this booster in some areas than we've had in the past in terms of looking at the hardware. There's some robustness in the aft part of the vehicle around the engines to keep the plume from those engines from coming inside. There's many things, each booster that we get, I think we might get a new booster again later on in Crew 6. So every one of those, we see improvements to it. So we like the reflown boosters, but again, getting a new booster for us, get some upgrades and some safety improvements, which we appreciate on the NASA perspective. So.
Okay.
So just highlight that the NASA certification process that tells us we are go for flight is the same across the board, right? So safety and reliability is the top priority with every single booster, and it's all held to the same standard when we say we're go for launch.
All right, when we have one other person on the phone, we have Joey Roulette again with Reuters.
Hey, thanks. I just had one follow-up for Sergey. How important is it for Russia to remain as an international space station partner? Would Russia be able to sustain its human spaceflight program if it were to pull out of the partnership in 2024? Or what would that look like? Thanks.
We are thinking about building new space station. We start preliminary design of it. There is no final decision yet, but we are going to keep flying International Space Station as long as our new infrastructure will build. We don't know yet how it's going to be built and what kind of modules we will have, but I'm sure that we will stay in international partnership when we fly ISS, and future station, future infrastructure is also going to be with international partnership.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We got to all the questions, so I now invite Kathy for any final remarks.
So like I think Sergey mentioned, and Sergey, I think you got the brunt of the questions today, so thank you very much. Right now, we're just through one phase. So obviously great launch. We're very happy that the launch went so well, but now the team's really focused on getting the crew safely to the ISS. We once again are very grateful that our international partners are trusting us to be able to fly their crews. And we're also very grateful that SpaceX continues to be such a great partner for us and continue to fly our crews. And so looking forward to Nicole and Josh and Anna and Koichi safely reaching the International Space Station tomorrow. And I know Joel's got a whole list of things for them to do when they get on orbit. So keep watching, keep following along. Hopefully it'll be very calm and boring mission, and we'll get there. But also really, really, like I said at the beginning, want to thank all the teams. You all know what a tremendous endeavor this is, and it takes people all over the country, all over the world to get us to this point. And so I really, really want to thank the teams that have gotten us to this point. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your interest in Crew 5.
Well, you heard Kathy. Keep watching, keep following along. So with that, coverage will continue on NASA TV through docking at the space station, which is expected tomorrow, Thursday, October 6th at 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also stay on to cover the welcome ceremony, which, as Joel said, is about 90 minutes after that. So until then, just follow us along for any updates on our social media channels, and we're going to say goodbye with a beautiful replay of today's launch.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, engines full power, and liftoff. Go Crew 5. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Mission Control Houston. We are live in the International Space Station Flight Control Room just about 2 hours after having a successful launch of NASA's SpaceX Crew 5 mission to the International Space Station from the Kennedy Space Center at Launch Complex 39A in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Crew 5 has about a 29-hour flight to the space station. With 2 of those hours knocked off, the space station will continue chasing the International Space Station for just another 27 hours. We're expecting docking for the Crew 5 crew and Crew Dragon Endurance around 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. SpaceX Dragon spacecraft carrying NASA astronauts Nicole Mann, the commander of Dragon, Josh Cassada, the pilot of Dragon, and mission specialist JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikuna are on their way to the International Space Station. They have successfully reached orbit and have been chasing down the International Space Station for the past 2 hours.
Dragon SpaceX for suit drying.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Nicole. We just had noticed that the suits have been on, or the suit fans have been on for over 20 minutes on there, so we just wanted to check in and make sure that things were still going okay. Obviously, you can keep going until they are dry, but in case you all forgot, we just wanted to let you know that the 20 minutes on our end had run up.
Okay, copy that. We'll give them another check and then get those fans.
Girl, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Could have been there, should have been so strong. So I'm sorry.